Well, hello and welcome all you wonderful people to the Texas Special YouTube channel. And for this O-Scale March 2023 Locomotive review, we are looking at this lightly weathered Lionel number 1943 Union Pacific SD70ACe. This is one of the first production runs of Lionel's version of the Union Pacific number 1943, which of course is a real locomotive. We have here the gorgeous Spirit of the Union Pacific banner on the nose. Now the cool thing about this locomotive, as some of you or a lot of you may or may not know, I am a proud veteran of the United States Army. Served in the Military Police Corps. And this locomotive pays homage to all the branches of the military and Homeland Security. So, to start off, you have the blue band across the nose coming down at an angle and blue on the top of the nose here. You also have the gray on either side. Now that pays homage to the Air Force. This locomotive is named after a bomber that Union Pacific sponsored in 1943 or 1942. The plane was built and finished in 1943 and subsequently shot down, which I find more than just a tad ironic given the state of affairs of Union Pacific today. But that is another that is another topic for another video. You have the red band here for the Department of Homeland Security. The Coast Guard. Yes, I will be doing veteran trash talk in this video, at least for this portion. You have the gray here for the United States Navy. And you have the old school fatigue style camo, which pays homage to the United States Marine Corps, and the greatest fighting force the world has ever known, the United States Army. All of the decals and the paint separation on this locomotive are immaculately executed. There is very crisp and opaque separation between the blue and the gray and the white bands as well. The red striping, the gorgeous American flag is very well done. You have the air reservoirs, you have the red accent around the fuel tank sight glass. You have my assistant director there nudging the tripod with his beef bone. You have the emergency fuel stop button. You have the fuel filler cap and some very well done piping between the air tanks and along the exposed portions of the frame. You have a separately applied bell. The trucks are loaded down with details. One thing about this locomotive, the owner of this engine that has this on loan to me, he did tell me, which it wasn't hard to see, but the bottom step here and here on all four sides of the locomotive are broken off. That's not a big deal. There is no smoke unit. He ran into some kind of issue with the smoke unit and he had to rip it out. But other than that, the locomotive runs as intended and is a flawless performer. And would try to pull my house off its foundation if I gave it the opportunity. So here we have a more close-up view of those details that I was pointing out earlier. You can see it's very well executed. These are plastic details. The body is plastic, the frame is metal, as are the wheels. The trucks Also, the trucks are metal. And there's a view of one of the trucks and the unfortunately broken step. So here we have a side-by-side comparison of an MTH SD70ACe, which this is mine, and this Lionel SD70ACe. Alright, so in contrast to the MTH version, the Premier version, the door actually opens. Now there's no interior detailing. You can see the plastic partition there, and if the camera was at a better angle, you'd actually see like the wiring and whatnot just off inside the door over here. So while the door feature is cool, there's not really anything to it once you get past the door. And you can see the separately applied uncoupling lever, which the Lionel model has. The Lionel model actually has a little bit more give to it, or movability to it. The MU hoses are here on the MTH model. On the Lionel version, they actually snake through the snowplow, just like on the real thing. Snowplow on both. I think the Lionel version looks a little better than the MTH version. You can see here the owner of the locomotive has weathered the electrocoupler, and the electrocoupler on the rear is weathered as well. Both of these engines feature an actual chain, a little small like jewelry chain for the safety chain. Now, if you'll notice, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but the hand railings on the MTH model are a little bit more fine wire, and the Lionel variant are a little bit thicker. They're still separately applied, but they're thicker. The ditch lights are a more scale size, and the housings actually look a little bit more realistic. You actually have the little clamps and bolts and whatnot here and all the way around the housing, versus the MTH version is literally a square box with a round tube, and there's the LED. The nose decal is a little higher on the MTH version than the UP version, which I think that's actually intentional and prototypically specific. And you also have the variation in the headlight arrangement, whereas on the MTH version, which this model's in the real world later prototype run of the SD70ACe model, the headlights are on the cab versus the nose. On the merits, this engine is a great engine. It does great. It has some things that are better than the MTH version. It has some things that are not as well executed as the MTH version. But on the whole, a great locomotive nonetheless. Alright, so comparing and contrasting the top size of the locomotive, MTH Premier versus Lionel scale, all of the key details are there, but the Lionel edges the MTH out on roof details in one critical area: the roof, alright, and the front of the cab, the very front edge of the cab. Now, you've seen this engine run numerous times. Alright, this engine has been featured on my channel bukus of times. Alright, and since this one actually does have an operating smoke unit, I'm going to turn it back up. Now here is the Lionel. Now here is the Lionel SD70ACe. You can see it has all of the major features of the real SD70ACe, and all of the major features of the MTH Premier SD70ACE. But as I said earlier, the cab details of this locomotive are what set it apart. So you can see here, there is much more detailing on the cab of the locomotive, and in addition, so while the MTH model has these grab irons here, they're molded onto the cab. They're cast on details. On the Lionel engine, these are separately applied details. The grab irons here on the front edge of the cab, which there's another one down here too, they are there. They are separately applied, but they're so close to the locomotive that they almost look cast on, versus here they're much more pronounced. And you saw just the plain basic plastic hump looking thing on the top of the locomotive. Well, you have a lot more detailed antenna array and GPS transponders and all that wonderful stuff up here on the top of the locomotive, arranged in a prototypically correct pattern. Of course, you saw the three little ridges here. Those were present on the MTH model. These lift rings here, I'm not sure how well you can see them, but there are lift rings right here. They are not present on the MTH model. In fact, the only lift rings on the MTH model are the lift rings here along the sides. Prototypically correct 5-chime horn. Again, no operable smoke unit, unfortunately. These fan blades, my bad there, prototypically correct 5-chime horn. These fan blades here actually spin. They actually spin. The grills are see-through. This rear one, it does not spin, and the fan blade detailing is cast on. So here we are looking at the rear of the locomotive, and you can see the final critical detail of this locomotive is the POW-MIA, if I can get my camera to cooperate. And here you can see the final detail on the rear of the locomotive, the POW-MIA decal, which I'm sorry y'all, this is the best I could get it. You have these louvers and vents here, these grills here, and you have these separately applied grab irons right here. And of course the safety chain is actually a small chain. And the blue 1943 beside the POW-MIA decal on either side. And of course the weathered Lionel electro coupler. You got the big air, the train air here, which is hooked up to the cars, and you've got the MU hoses and the other MU hoses right here. Alright, so we do have a train put together for this on main track number 1 on the South Texas Railroad, and we're going to run this guy for a little bit around the railroad. First things first, you got to make sure the track power is hot, which it is. So we're going to grab the legacy remote, we'll turn it on, and we'll enter the engine number. There it is, it pops up. You'll blow the horn to wake the locomotive up.
here. We're starting.